Log Horizon, Volume 1, Chapter 3, Part 5. It was almost midnight when they reached Akiba. The city center, consisting of the Metro City Square, major road junction, and a bridge, was filled with stalls as usual. The crowd was substantial there as well, but the darker outskirts of the city and the dim alleys of the ruins had suspicious players. They were wary of others and kept a distance from people when walking the streets. Security really is going bad. Shiroe's group had been heading to the field zone to hunt monsters these past few days. It was crucial to share your information in the city since that terrible event. Issues regarding eating, sleeping, the basic mechanism and structure of this world, there were many things they needed to confirm. After gathering this basic data, Shiroe's group had decided to find out about the field zones and how much battle had changed. This was the policy the three of them had come up with, but it was taking a longer time than expected. Using magic and skills was vastly different than mastering them. Shiroe and Naotsugu already had this idea, and Akatsuki was also gaining this viewpoint as time passed. The bigger the difference between using and mastering, the more time it took to make up the difference through practice. Confirming the features of each skill, researching its uses and experimenting with it. The amount of data in Elder Tales was enough to make beginners cry, but it was several times more in this alternate world. Take Cross Slash, for instance. This was a basic combo attack of Guardians, striking a foe twice in the shape of a cross. Guardians learned this early since it was a basic skill, and they had many opportunities to use it. According to Naotsugu, there were 5 ways to activate this skill. Slashing from top right to bottom left, and strike up vertically is the basics. But you can also start from top left to bottom right, which suits left-handers better. You can also do a horizontal slice followed by a vertical cut. That's how it was. This skill, or rather this basic battle movement, had already been saved inside their bodies. Based on the 2 fighting class players, Naotsugu and Akatsuki, if you had the will to fight and could see your enemy's movements, your body would act automatically. But you needed lots of practice to tie down the delicate movements. There was no telling if practicing like real-world martial artists would work, but the weapon-wielding duo was the same as Shiroe. They had to go through the process of research, experimentation, and adjustment. For ranged attack spells, aiming with your staff would raise your accuracy than solely using hotkeys. This was something Shiroe found out through experimenting. Apart from finding trivial but crucial things when using skills, it would be hard to use on the enemy without practicing teamwork as well. The 3 of them had the roles of tank, DPS, and command support, but teamwork was more than just completing your assigned tasks. Naotsugu needed to find ways to aggro the enemy, leaving his allies free to work. Akatsuki also needed to accumulate knowledge and experience, knowing which of Naotsugu's attacks would expose the opponent's weak point. The burden on Shiroe was even heavier. He needed to know what his comrades could and couldn't do to command effectively. He needed to know their habits and even breathing patterns to increase the completeness of their information. He had countless things to investigate and remember, which would take time for him to master. This was the daily life of Shiroe's party. Maryelle and the Crescent Moon Alliance had also been a great help towards Shiroe's group. Crescent Moon Alliance was set up with the objective of mutual support. They had few high-level players, but they had more manpower as they were a guild, able to send people to farm in the field zone and collate intelligence from the streets at the same time. The guild was divided into 3 shifts, taking turns to harvest resources in the field, buy materials, and get information on the streets or craft items with production skills. Doing things in shifts seemed more efficient. As they had agreed, Shiroe's team would be getting data on the level 60 and above zones in exchange for information Maryelle's group canvassed on the streets. They would also trade high-level items in exchange for food and equipment. They were working hard in the area they were good at and sharing the results. Mary did mention some people are really stressed out. Probably has something to do with the PKing. Shiroe sighed at this deduction because this was second-hand information he got from Maryelle. But since he had experienced PK himself, this should be a fact. The interior of the metro provided shelter from the rain, making it an excellent place to set up shops. Shiroe's party passed through it and headed for the city square in front of the metro. There should have been an open-air promenade in the real world here, but it was just a vast area overgrown with moss and grass in this alternate world. Although the surrounding buildings were desolated, the first floor of every one of them was occupied by a shop. The majority of Akiba's commercial facilities were located here. Like the marketplace NPC that helped the players to trade, the blacksmith and tailor teachers aided the production beginners. Other than teaching the basic skills, they would also provide free access to their furnace and sewing tables. Most of the items in this world came from monsters or treasure chests and dungeons. They may also have been crafted by production players. To assist the low-level players on their adventures, NPCs would also sell basic weapons and armors. The commercial facilities around the city square also had such merchant NPCs. The NPC population in this world was much larger than in the game. The players had been shocked at first, but got used to it over time. They had not done a proper head count, but there were about 6 to 10 times more than in the game. The basic services in the city area followed that of the game and was available 24 hours, but the NPCs still needed to eat and rest, so the increase in population was probably because of the need to work on shifts. They lived according to their own timetable and stayed in their residence above their shops. They didn't buy player-crafted goods or magic items, so it was hard to judge whether they were involved in this world's economy. Unlike in the game, the actions of these NPCs were similar to that of humans. You might mistake them for players if you didn't check them with your status screen. "Wanna buy something? Or eat something?" Naotsugu asked Akatsuki in a feeble voice.
What shall we do, my lord?"
Akatsuki asked Shiroe in an indifferent tone. Yeah, hold on first. Let's make a trip over to see if Mary is still awake," Shiroe had decided. Even if the food tasted the same at the Crescent Moon Alliance, eating at Maryelle's place was still better. The atmosphere's impact on a meal couldn't be underestimated. They had loot from hunting monsters and fighting the PKers, so they could sell it to the Crescent Moon Alliance. It would then be crafted into items and flow back into the market, giving it back to the community. Shiroe opened his menu and called Maryelle via telepathy. Maryelle should still be awake at this hour, but her answering speed seemed too fast.
"Yo, Shido Boyan! Where are you?"
Back in the city. Maryelle's greeting was the same as always, but it seemed a bit more anxious.
"Come over to my guild!"
Is it convenient? Are you not sleeping yet?
"I was just thinking of contacting you. Anyway, just come over!"
Convenient for Naotsugu and Akatsuki to tag along? Shiroe had introduced Naotsugu and Akatsuki to Maryelle when interacting with the Crescent Moon Alliance. The trio visited the guild quite often and even joined some members to battle monsters, so they were all familiar faces there.
"Of course, that will be even better! I'll wait for you guys!"
The call ended. Shiroe felt hectic signs in the background while conversing with Maryelle. It seemed like Crescent Moon Alliance was still active this late at night. "What is it, Shido?" Naotsugu, who sensed something different about Shiroe, asked casually. Naotsugu showed kindness in all these small matters. Shiroe was secretly impressed as he turned to face the two and said, "Let's make a trip to Crescent Moon Alliance. Seems like something's up." To read along with Log Horizon, or to read any other fine light novels, go to Baka-Tsuki.org. Baka-Tsuki.org. If you want to voice a character for audio light novel Log Horizon, contact me at youtubecontact22@yahoo.com. If you want to pay for your services, I can pay some money, just not a lot, and I am willing to negotiate a price. You can also volunteer if you wish. Again, just contact me at the specified email address. I'm also willing to reply to any constructive criticism, so if you have any ideas for audio light novel Log Horizon, please leave them in the comments. If you like audio light novel Log Horizon, please leave a like or a comment, as it really does motivate me to do these.